Hey everybody, Greg here. So pretty impressive return today against this red bar. Let me just move this out of the way. This big red bar gapped up in the middle of the range. We covered that pre-market, and it's been able to rally up to the top. So impressive. Still putting it in perspective of this downtrend. There is a void above, but at the moment it's up against this resistance, as you can see on the 5-minute chart. Also pointing out it's bullish sideways price action at that resistance area, which would imply that it could potentially go higher, maybe get all the way up, to the top of that dot up there. You can see that 531 and change, 532, let's call it. Now, while it's consolidating here, we're coming to the end of the doldrums. Also, look at the ticks, how they backed off from the high, which isn't unusual during a consolidation, but as it started to move up, let's just look here, right? So it reached its extreme up near the top of the move, and it's been backing off and holding on to things. There's no breakout failures here. There's no attempts to go higher that failed and came in. If it was to do that, that would suggest it could start to pull back. And, because it's in a downtrend on the daily and up at that resistance, which we've looked at, it might pull back sharply. One of the things that we always say, no matter whether you're looking at a 5-minute chart or a daily chart, realize whether the time period is close to an end or not. And so we got 2 hours to go into the end of the day. And it's very possible this could turn into a topping tail bar, and that would really set up a great setup to move lower. Because you'd have there's a reversal pattern now. As I always, as I'm doing one of these recordings or talking in the green room at pre-market, you're thinking about what could happen, what could make this even more powerful as a sell setup if that was to occur. Well, this bullish price action here, what if it took out the top of this range here and at the end of the day failed and came way back in again? I don't know if that's going to happen, but if it did that by taking out a high and turn into a topping tail bar, that would be a very high probability setup. Let's see. If it closes near the high of the day and this goes sideways into the close, well, then that's going to suggest it would go higher because traders now held on to the gain after a run up. And if they do that, they're expecting it's going to go higher. There's no other way to read it. If they're bullish enough to hold on to a gain in the downtrend, the expectation it's going to go higher. And then we'll see if it actually does. There's news in the morning, economic news. If it was to surprise and gap down, well, then we have a situation where traders are caught. We'll see if that plays out. It's still starting to move up here, getting closer to resistance. See what happens. Qs already up at the top of the range there, starting to poke a little bit above. It's I moved that up a little bit. It's actually just right there. So as far as going longs on a breakout like that, low probability setup, a setup that often results in a breakout failure, up at resistance. It's been up all day. Let's take a look at the Russell speculative. Held on pretty good today. We had discussion in the green room about, let me go back to, you can see where this is. It has some room to go up, but I'm going to go back to SPX or SPY that we were talking about in the room. We had discussion about M tops. And so what I was asked about is, Greg, what do you think about this as an M top here, that maybe it would roll back over? And what I said was, look, we had a nice discussion on W bottoms and M tops in MT Live yesterday. And you have to utilize the concept in whatever time frame you're going to apply it to. So on the 5-minute chart, the S&P's gapped up from a downtrend, and that was the beginning of a move. And while it was up a little bit of resistance here and did a retest of the pivot, it wasn't extended, meaning if this had made another run up and then it was extended from the 20, and I mentioned that, look, this is forming in the area right on the 20 MA. So that is a visual aid. It's not extended. This was the beginning of a move. And so M tops were just retest patterns or a lower probability setup if it's from the beginning of the move. Now, resistance was way up there, which we've already covered. So you don't short a retest pattern that's from the beginning of the move. You sit back. You don't go long, but you don't go short. And we were really talking about credit spreads at the time, in which I said, look, if you can get far enough away from where there's overhead resistance, there's enough premium there, and it's going to expire today, sure, you could do that. But as a directional, no, you don't do that. You wait and see, if it continues to go higher, and then as it's near resistance or on the second leg up or the third leg up, and prices run up. So we talked about in MT Live how the M top or the W bottom is preceded by a momentum move higher. But a momentum move higher from a downtrend and a small consolidation suggests continuation, not an all-out failure. Just take a peek at one more thing. SMHs, which led the way down, have now led the way up. That's up against resistance here. So the probability of longs continuing on a short-term basis intraday are now low. Best to sit back and wait to see how this ends the day. As always, if you have any questions, email us, Greg and Dan at Master Trader.